and welcome. My name is Bethany Smith, Marketing and Outreach Manager here at New Day Services. Today, we have gathered to have a conversation in light of October being Domestic Violence Awareness Month to do just that, bring awareness to the issue of domestic violence. Joining me today are the program staff and facilitators of Focus for Mothers, New Day Services' 10-week motherhood program that walks alongside mothers and empowers them on their journey to creating safe and loving homes for their children. I'm going to introduce everyone real fast. Today we have Diane Davis, Program Coordinator for Focus for Mothers, Marie Luong, who is the Engagement Specialist for Focus for Mothers, and then we have 3 lead facilitators here with us. We have Latangya Clinton, Sheri Leyva, and Ms. Blessing Shuman. Awesome. Before we dive in, we want to emphasize that while Focus for Mothers and the topics that we discussed today are geared primarily towards women, the issue of domestic violence is not limited to targeting one gender. Domestic violence can and does occur to any gender, race, economic class, or identity. To begin our conversation, Diane, will you tell us exactly what is domestic violence?
Yes, domestic violence is a type of abuse that occurs in the home or within a family of domestic setting. It can be abuse of a spouse or a partner, which is also known as intimate partner violence, or it could be the abuse of a child or older relative or family member. And as far as abuse, there's all different types of abuse. There's physical violence that can lead to injuries, and that's what we usually mostly think of. There's sexual violence, including sexual assault. Emotional abuse, which includes threat, name-calling, put-downs, humiliation. It can also involve controlling behavior, such as telling the victim how to act or how to dress, or not letting them go see other family members or friends. And so it can be economic abuse, which involves controlling their money, stalking, which is repeated unwanted contact that causes fear or concern for the safety of the victim. This can include watching or following the victim. The stalker may send repeated unwanted phone calls or texts. And during Focus for Mothers, we teach that abuse is a learned behavior and how it affects not only those individuals who are being abused, it also everyone in the home who witnessed this behavior. Latangya, one of our facilitators, could you give us some examples that we share in class as some of the stats?
Oh, yes, absolutely. Thank you, Diane. And I want to reiterate what you just stated. Domestic violence, it is learned behavior in our home. Our home is the first classroom of life. And unfortunately, we have families who are affected learning these behaviors at home. Now, some domestic violence statistics include, for instance, witnessing violence between one's parents or caregivers is the strongest risk factors of transmitting violent behavior from one generation to the next. Okay? Boys who witness domestic violence are twice as likely to abuse their partners and children as adults. This is true even if the boys never experience abuse themselves. That is a part of that learned behavior. 50% of girls who grow up in an abusive home will go on to be victims of abuse themselves. Domestic violence is the leading predictor of child abuse. 60 to 70% of children of abused women are physically abused. 20% of those children who are abused by the mother's abuser are also, unfortunately, sexually abused. 75% of sexual assaults occur in the home, and the abuser is usually family, acquaintances, or friends. And unfortunately, there are long-term significant emotional problems suffered by victims of abuse, which can include anxiety, depression, chronic health problems, chronic pain, drug and alcohol dependence, eating disorders, panic attacks, post-traumatic stress disorder, and the list could continue. So let's take a look. Ms. Blessing will give us an overview of the power and control wheel.
Yes, thank you so much, Latanya. It's so important just to realize that domestic abuse is very complicated, and not everyone understands what it means, especially if they have not been through it. And so even some people who have experienced it firsthand, they are not really sure of what constitutes abusive behavior. Back in the 1980s, the Domestic Abuse Intervention Project, also called DAPE, they created the power and control wheel to help describe the abuse that women in domestic violence relationships were experiencing. Understanding that domestic violence is not a singular incident, okay? It is an insidious problem deep rooted in our culture. And on an average, an intimate partner in the US, they experience physical abuse at a rate of nearly 20 people per minute. 20 people per minute. Can you imagine? During 1 year, that equates to more than 10 million women and men. Okay, and so looking at the power and control wheel very briefly, how does this abuse, what does it look like? What does it entail? It's all about power and control. No matter how it is experienced, the goal here is for the abuser to be able to exert power and control over their victim. They may use something like coercion and threats, intimidation, emotional abuse, isolation, getting them away from their family and friends, their support system. They may even minimize, deny, and even blame the victim for being the reason why they were abused. They may even use children. We see that when we work with our moms who are involved in a co-parenting dynamic. They may use the children to relay upsetting information to the parent, just knowing that if they share it with the child is going to go back and share it with the parent. They may use male privilege, treating them making the abusee, the victim, treat the abuser like they're the king of the castle, that type of thing. They may also use economic abuse, using taking their money away from them, making them work, or not allowing them to work. There is there's a huge dynamic. And so the goal here of the power and control wheel is to bring that awareness to our clients and to women who may be watching, to know you may have some check engine lights going on that you need to pay attention and evaluate where you are in your relationship. Like I mentioned earlier, domestic violence is not singular. It is a problem deep rooted in our culture. And as I shared that at a rate of 20 people per minute, equating to 10 million women and men, one of the most fatal ways and most fatal forms of domestic violence is strangulation. A woman that is strangled by her partner is 750% more likely to be killed by them. So let's look at some of the dangers of strangulation. When we're looking at the dangers, it's really important to know that it is the most lethal form of domestic violence. During this pandemic, I want to call it, but when this is happening, unconsciousness may occur, and you can be seconds away from death, because just with the force of a gentle handshake, you can go unconscious. And also, please understand that strangulation is the ultimate form. It is the ultimate form of power and control, because they're taking literally your life away. That's what's happening in this dynamic. It does not take much force. Please understand, sometimes if you have a visual of what you think strangulation is, you may think that it's something that will need a lot of force. But again, a gentle handshake is enough to cut off that air supply. All right. And so it is important to know the other extreme risk factors. In addition to strangulation, which again is the most lethal, it is important to understand the other extreme risk factors that may lead to homicide. And Sheri is going to help us with that.
Yes. So many times, people that have never been in a domestic abuse situation ask the question. It's really easy to say, why don't they just pick up and leave? Why don't they just get up and start over? But you know, most of the time it's a lot more complicated than that. They don't understand the danger that the woman can be in or the person can be in from actually leaving. Because of how Blessing talked about in the power control wheel, abuse is about power and about control. When a victim tries to leave, they're taking the power and control away from the abuser. Therefore, it can become dangerous to the point of retaliation in very destructive ways. So aside from the fear actually being a danger in leaving, some of the other reasons that women choose to stay in relationships is because of fear, embarrassment, shame, low self-esteem, lack of money, lack of resources. It could be a cultural thing. There's so many different reasons. There's many different reasons. Those are just a few. So as well as the question of why women don't just leave, we also want to bring the question up that's just equally important. Why are we not asking the abuser to stop abusing? It's imperative that we start changing the direction of the conversation, not only from just why isn't the woman leaving, which may make her feel shamed or guilty or like something's wrong with her, to asking, holding the abuser accountable for what they're doing and the choices that they make. So now we're going to talk about some resources for victims of domestic violence, including safety planning, counseling, etc., and along with some of the resources for the actual abusers that may want to make a change in their behavior and learn how to break that cycle of abuse. So Maria's here to give us some of these resources.
All right, thank you so much, Sheri. So like Sheri just said, I am here to just share some resources with everyone. And so if you or a loved one are experiencing domestic violence right now, are a victim of domestic violence or a survivor, here are some resources that you can refer to. If you are in immediate danger, please call 911. Other places that you can call is the U.S. National Domestic Violence Hotline. Those are the two numbers up there. One is just a regular one, and the other one is for the deaf and hard of hearing as well. Other wonderful resources here is One Safe Place, who is a local partnership. They are the Family Justice Center, and we like to refer them as the one-stop shop for domestic violence. There are 18 agencies working together under one roof to provide a bunch of services to survivors of domestic violence, such as counseling, job skill training, victim advocacy, and case management, safety planning, and so much more. A big thing that One Safe Place does so well is safety planning, and we like to refer to safety planning as a cornerstone for intimate partner violence interventions because it's such an individualized process. And One Safe Place does a wonderful job of taking into account each survivor's unique situation and coming up with a plan that really fits best for them. There's also an app that we talk about. It's called My Plan, and it's a tool that you can download right onto your phone, and it is there to help with safety decisions if you or someone that you care about is experiencing abuse in their intimate relationship. Everyone deserves to feel safe in their relationship, and every situation is unique, like I just said. And so My Plan is really there to help you identify, navigate, and provide resources for a range of relationship abuse concerns. Other resources we have here is Voices, and that is actually a support group that is held at One Safe Place. And their goal here is to raise awareness of domestic violence in the community. They are here as a voice of advocacy for the voiceless so that they may feel free to live a life free of violence and reproach. Meetings are typically held once a month or bi-monthly. You can find more information at onesafeplace.org/voices. Last but not least, like Sheri had mentioned before, we do have a resource here for abusers who are wanting to make a change and to break the cycle of abuse. And so BIP classes stand for Batterers Intervention and Prevention Program, and it is a psychoeducational program designed to give clients the tools needed to achieve healthy, intimate relationships. Like Diane had mentioned at the beginning, we talk about abuse as a learned behavior. And so these classes are designed to address and challenge clients' beliefs that lead to violent and controlling behavior. BIP is also designed to give clients the skills to treat their partners with respect and handle conflict non-violently. And so here are some of just the resources that we wanted to share with you. So I'm going to hand it back to Bethany to wrap everything up.
Ladies, thank you so much for sharing such important information. I appreciate you taking your time to spread awareness during October being Domestic Violence Awareness Month, to shed some light on this very, very, very important issue. If you would like some more information, you can visit our website, www.newdayservices.org. You'll find a link there with all the resources we shared with you today, and that way you can access those links to those websites and to those programs as well. Thank you again for joining us today, and remember that domestic violence affects us all. However, with action and education, we can end it. Thank you.